Hey everyone, welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I'm your host Amber, and with me as always is Brittany.
Hi y'all.
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all. Yep.
How's your mom and them?
That's right. No guesses on where we're from.
All right, what are you drinking today?
Ooh, I'm such a Debbie Downer, guys. I'm not even drinking Diet Coke. I'm drinking water out of a panda mug.
It's so specific. Out of a panda mug.
Yeah, look how cute. Oh, you can only see its butt on that side. There we go. Look how cute that is.
Oh, that's precious. You're drinking water.
I know. But my tummy has the rumbles, so I'm just trying to hydrate myself.
Well, I had every intention of drinking wine tonight. I even have this like super nice Pinot Noir. I've been dying to open it. It's like a bougie wine.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll just go right into my personal true crime this week, which is the reason I'm not drinking tonight. I'm drinking Chick-fil-A sweet tea.
Okay, that's good though. At least it's not water.
The Lord's sweet tea. Yeah. So my personal true crime is I am now officially a member of the migraine gang. And I'm not excited about it. I want a full refund.
Yeah, like on your head or?
Yeah. No, I got my very first migraine. I feel like I need a little Christmas ornament, like Amber's first migraine.
I feel like we need the pew 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 button.
Pew 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 pew. I've never had a migraine in my life. I've had some pretty bad headaches, but even headaches I don't get very often. My mom has suffered from migraines. I have very close friends who have horrible migraines to the point where they take FMLA at work. It's so bad. And I'm always just like, oh, that sucks. I can't imagine what that's like. Now I know.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm not happy about it.
You've been very miserable, so I get the not drinking.
Yeah. So, wine, as much as I love it, it does tend to give you a headache once in a blue moon. And with me already having a lingering one, I'm not trying to make it any worse. So
I get that.
Sweet tea it is for me, but what was your personal true crime this week?
The snow. I know people love snow. And
the snow.
So pretty to look at, but my house is already like, I had just gotten it back in order from like 2 of the Christmases, because we do my Christmas with my family and then the Christmas with Matt's family. And I had just gotten my house in order. So nice and clean. And then what should happen but it snows. Now what does my house look like? Mud from my kids. That
sounds about right.
And it's cold and I don't like it. And now they're talking about more tonight.
How dare it snow in the winter time?
I know. Well,
so rude.
Really the true crime should be winter. I hate winter.
It's not my favorite.
I hate it.
But I like a good snow, and then once it's over, then I'm like, all right, it can get warm again.
Yeah, no. I'm not a winter person. I have appreciation for winter, but I don't want it near me.
You can love it from afar.
That's right.
You can see pictures of it.
Yes, and if I want to go somewhere cold and snowy, I'll hop my ass on a plane or train or whatever and go there.
All right, well, anyways, so I have no clue, none at all, about what we're covering today.
Today's story has to be one of the most insane stories I've ever told. It's filled with twists and turns, a love triangle, and absurdity that will have you rolling your eyes, and unfortunately, the tragic death of a mother. Today, I'm covering the murder of Tami Reay.
I've never heard of this, but I'm going to be rolling my eyes?
Yeah, there's times that you will roll your eyes. So, Tamara, who went by Tammy, Donnell Burns, was born on June 15th, 1964, to Donald and Bonnie Burns in Lander, Wyoming. Tammy had 2 sisters, Holly and Raquel, and Tammy grew up in Lander and graduated from Lander Valley High School in 1982. She then attended Central Wyoming College for 2 years on a volleyball scholarship. She then left Lander and moved to Casper, Wyoming to work at a clothing store called Sweet Briar. She then briefly moved to Cheyenne before moving to Sacramento, California for 4 years, where she also worked in women's clothing.
She moved away from Wyoming to California?
Yeah, she's young. She ain't got nothing holding her down. She's going to see the world.
Yeah, but I just feel like moving out of Wyoming to California should be a true crime. Right?
But I'm sure people would say that to me about North Carolina, and I definitely moved all the way to Alaska and liked it way better, and still came back to North Carolina. Tami then moved to Billings, Montana. This is where Tami, who was 27, met Brad Reay. Tami was introduced to Brad by her sister, who worked with Brad at a local restaurant. Tami and Brad instantly had sparks, and within a year, Tami was pregnant and thrilled. Tami and Brad got married in 1992. Now listen, folks, I don't have an exact wedding date here because literally this is a case that I have the most sources for all the research I've done, and not one of them told me an actual wedding date. I had to do the math. So we get a year for their wedding date, 1992.
Which is so odd because that's public record and it should be very easy to find, but okay.
One of my sources is literally court files. But anyways, moving on. Not long after they were married, Tami gave birth to a daughter she named Haley.
Love that name.
I love that name too. Tami was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of Haley and the home while Brad started climbing the ladder at Walmart. Tami also did some small odd jobs once Haley was school-aged, including working at Skyview High School. Tami was described as a wonderful mom, daughter, and sister. Her family said she enjoyed decorating, landscaping, gardening, sports and activities with Haley, and outdoors and camping throughout her life. Tami seemed like a really great person that was loving and fun to be around. Haley has said that she and her mom, Tami, were very close and did everything together, and that Tami wasn't just her mom, but she was like a big sister as well.
So they were really close.
Super close. And Haley has said of her dad, Brad, that while he was a very quiet guy, he was always very involved in her life. So, good parents, all's going well.
Sounds like a happy family.
And that's the end of the story. No, I'm just kidding. In August of 2004, Brad's hard work at Walmart paid off, and he was offered a manager position at the Walmart in Pierre, South Dakota. So Brad, Tami, and Haley moved to Pierre. Haley was sad to move further from her friends and her mom's family, who she was super close with, but Tami reassured her everything would be fine and that they would keep in touch and visit family in the summer. Tami eventually got a job at the local Kmart in the shoe department while Haley was in school, and Haley said that over time with Brad working constantly, she could sense a distance or a rift, between her parents. Like, they just didn't see each other very often, so it wasn't quite as loving and affectionate, that type of deal, which happens when, you've got people working a lot.
Yeah, busy lives.
Yeah.
Kind of growing apart a little.
About a year and a half after relocating to Pierre, Brad and Tami sat Haley down one evening and told her they were getting a divorce. Haley was devastated, understandably.
Yeah, I would be too. Wait, how old is she at this point?
She's about 11 at this point.
Okay, so yeah, that's a rough age.
Yeah, that's the age my parents got divorced. Well, and she's never said that they fought a lot or it was like a hostile marriage. So it probably came, even though she could sense the distance, she probably thought that's something anyone could work through,
Okay, so it wasn't like a amped up emotional situation. It was just kind of like a,
we've grown apart.
Here we are.
Yeah, type of deal.
Yeah, okay.
But tough for an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But Haley said that her parents reassured her that the divorce had nothing to do with her and that they both loved her very much, and that Tami told her not much would change and constantly checked in with Haley to see how she was holding up. So after a few days, Haley started getting used to the idea of her parents not being together. And it seems from the story that they were still living in the house together for some time after that, which I'm sure, either to give Haley time to adjust or while one of them found another place or, whatever.
Right, working out those fine details.
Yes. Now, there are some key things to note before we jump into the next part of the story. Number 1, Bonnie, which is Tami's mom, and Tami talked every single morning before anyone else got up, even if it was brief, but this was part of Tami's routine 7 days a week for years.
Okay.
So me and my mother. Okay. Every single day.
Some umbilical cords don't go that far.
Nope. This was not a long umbilical cord. Lots of distance and space between these two, but they did talk every day.
Okay.
Number 2, Tami was getting ready to start a new job at a local pharmacy doing billing to Medicaid. So now that we have those facts, let's dive in. On Wednesday, February 8th, 2006, Brad woke Haley up for school. Haley was looking for her mom. She looked first in her mom's room where she noticed Tami's purse, cell, and keys, but no Tami. Haley then went to the garage and saw her mom's black Durango still parked there, which is odd, obviously. So Haley then asked her dad if she knew where her mom was. Brad quietly said, quote, "She's probably at her boyfriend's. She'll be back in a couple of days," end quote.
Yeah, but is that normal? Did she have a boyfriend?
This confused Haley because she didn't know anything about her mom having a boyfriend.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Nothing of it. Never had heard of it, right? Makes no sense. Also that same morning, Bonnie hadn't heard from her daughter Tami like usual and started growing concerned. Bonnie and Donald and Tami's sisters, Holly and Raquel, all took turns calling Tami's house and cell, but they never got an answer. Realizing that it was getting later in the morning, Bonnie thought maybe Tami was at work. So she called Kmart and had them page for Tami over and over with no response. Bonnie then remembered Tami saying that she had become good friends with the assistant manager at the Kmart she worked at and that his name was Brian Clark. So Bonnie called back up to Kmart and asked to speak to Brian. Brian said that he hadn't seen Tami since 5 p.m. the night before and that she was late for her shift, but maybe she was at the pharmacy that she was getting ready to work for, and offered to call them and see if Tami was there. So that's what Brian did. Unfortunately, Tami wasn't at the pharmacy either. So Brian called Bonnie back to let her know this, and Bonnie said, quote, "We need to file a missing persons report," end quote. Brian again offered to do this for Bonnie since he's local, and Bonnie's far off. So they hung up and he immediately called 911. At 10:32 a.m., Pierre Police Department received a call from Brian Clark asking to file a missing persons report for Tami Reay, who was only 30 minutes late for her shift. And that is kind of odd.
Yeah.
But Brian gave a description of what he last saw Tami wearing the day before, which included a black turtleneck. He then said foul play might be suspected. And when the 911 operator asked why, Brian openly admitted that he and Tami had been having an affair and that Tammy's husband had found out about it.
Okay, I feel like I'm confused already. So she was,
can you call it an affair? They said they were getting a divorce, but they were sleeping together.
Okay, so then she did really have
yes,
like
but
a boyfriend.
I don't think that she ever took time away from Haley, and her intentions were obviously not to let Brad know about it. It was new and she didn't want to.
Okay.
I don't know how long it had been going on for, so I can't say if it started as an affair and that's why they got divorced. I don't know those details, but anyways, we'll get to that.
Okay, I'm just making sure I'm staying on.
You're with
track
me.
with
She
you.
definitely had a side piece. I hate to call Brian that, but a side piece, I guess. The operator asked Brian to come into the police department to file the missing persons report, and that's exactly what Brian did. Following the missing persons report, detectives decided to do a welfare check on the Reay residence. Brad Reay actually signed off to let detectives search the home for Tami. Immediately upon entering the home, red flags were flying. They noticed Tami's Durango still in the garage and noticed blood dripping down the running board onto the cement floor.
Oh.
When they opened the Durango, they immediately got a strong whiff of bleach or some other cleaning solution. It appeared someone had rushed to clean up blood, but there was too much of it. The blood was later confirmed to be Tami's. And of course, inside the home, Tami's purse, keys, and cells were still there. Police pulled Haley, who was 12 at this time, from her class at school and asked her questions about the state of her parents' relationship. Did they argue much, or did her dad ever get physical with her mom? Haley answered no to those questions. Haley knew that something had to be wrong, though, if the police were there interviewing her. Because, the police don't... And, she was already, suspicious about her mom in the morning, so she felt like something was definitely off. Police filed for an official warrant on the house, because they can only do so much with what they find unless they have an official warrant. And while they waited, they tried to get in touch with Tami's family and friends, and unfortunately, no one had heard from Tami still. So only 3 hours after Brian Clark made that 911 call, police brought Brad Reay in for a formal interview. Lieutenant Dave Dejabet interviewed Brad and said while Brad seemed very nervous, he was cooperative, and Lieutenant Dave told Brad they had found blood on the running board. And Brad was surprised but couldn't answer how the blood got there or say why it smelled of cleaner. And so I watched this interview, and it's very much like they gave him all kinds of outs. Have you recently hit a deer? Have you recently run over roadkill? Just trying.
Right.
Because at this point, obviously, they don't have the blood back. But it comes back, very soon after.
But a missing person and blood, it's not looking good, bro.
How'd it get there? I don't know. Why does it smell like cleaner? Who knows?
So he's just playing dumb.
Pretty much. Brad said a few hours after arriving home from work the night before, around 10:30 p.m., that he heard a car pull up outside and that Tami parked her Durango in the driveway and got in the car with someone else. Brad then said he hopped in Tami's Durango and chased after them. He assumed it was Tami and her boyfriend, but he did not know the boyfriend's name. An interaction with the state trooper that was caught on tape confirmed Brad's story about being on the road at the time he said he was, but he told the trooper he had just run to the store, which he told investigators he lied to the trooper. He was very forthcoming about that. I lied to the trooper. I didn't want to seem like a crazy husband chasing after my wife and her lover. So he did admit, I lied to the trooper.
Okay.
When police pushed him to tell them where Tami's body was and to do the right thing, he said he didn't know where Tami was, but, quote, "All this evidence points at me, but I'm hoping the body is found because there'll be something to set me free," end quote.
What?
Okay, Brad.
There will be something to set me free?
Not suspicious at all.
He's literally telling them, I did it, but I'm going to make it look like I didn't. Just you wait and see.
Pretty much. That's how I took it.
Amateur.
I'm telling you.
This is obviously his first rodeo.
Clearly.
If you have a business, you need a website. What's the best way to get a website up and running? Choose a website hosting company that makes it simple, like Pear Networks. Pear has over 20 years of experience managing the entire digital ecosystem for thousands of online businesses all around the world. Pear makes it easy for you with do-it-yourself website building tools and features, including simple drag-and-drop page design. And they have guaranteed US-based support technicians ready to help you whenever you need it, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Right now, when you sign up with Pear Networks, you'll receive 1 free month of web hosting. See for yourself how easy it is to build your website for free. Visit pear.com/free to get your first month of website hosting for free by using code QUICKSTART. That's QUICKSTART, QUICKSTART. That's pear.com/free, promo code QUICKSTART to get started today.
Meanwhile, police had talked further with Brian Clark, who admitted he had been with Tami the night before, but that he had went home, and Brian's wife confirmed his alibi. And like the officer that they interviewed about this is the first time she's learning of this affair. So she had no reason to lie. She could have hung his ass up to dry like, he wasn't here, even if he was, you know?
Yeah.
So I highly doubt she'd lie. Brad eventually asked for an attorney, and so detectives halted the interview like they're supposed to, but they decided that they had enough to arrest Brad for Tami's murder.
Good for you, cops.
Yes, but they really needed Tami's body because the little evidence they had wasn't enough to convict him, obviously, of murder. But, of course, his alibi was shaky, and he certainly had motives. So Brad was arrested for murder and held without bail the next day. That afternoon, the formal search warrant comes through to search the Reay residence. There was so much more blood in the Durango than initially thought. I'm talking in the cracks of the seats and the upholstery. Like, there's pictures of this. I mean, literally, like, you lean the seat back and it's just like blood. Lots of it. Literally lots of blood. But everything in the house looks super clean. Beds made, no sign of a struggle or fight. And this made police question if they had arrested the wrong person. Because there's literally nothing, not a blood drop, nothing.
In the home.
In the entire home. Just the car.
Okay.
So they're like, well, did we get the wrong guy? Because obviously maybe this isn't the crime scene, you know?
Sounds like the car was the crime scene if there's that much blood.
You'd think. So they re-interviewed Brian Clark, but he was very forthcoming and his alibi held strong. Haley, meanwhile, had to stay in a foster home overnight until her grandpa could pick her up, because it's about a 9-hour drive. And detectives went to the foster home to talk to Haley and to tell her that they suspected her mom was dead. And I watched an episode on this story that we'll link in the show notes, but not only listening to the original recording of this interview, but also listening to the detective that conducted the interview, re-listen to it all these years later, will break your heart. You can tell that this guy does not want to wreck a 12-year-old baby
right.
or world, you know? It's sad. And then it shows Haley listening to it as an adult, and your heart will break all over again. All over again. They tell Haley that her dad has been arrested for her mom's murder. Haley said part of her believed her mom had died, but another part of her held out hope that she was still alive since they haven't found her.
Well, that's got to be like earth-shattering that your mom has died pretty much. But also your dad probably did it and he's being arrested.
Right. And of course she's like hoping not because she just wants one of her parents.
Those are her parents. Yeah.
This poor girl asked if she could still keep her kitty cat. And that's the way she said it. Can I still keep my kitty cat? And when I tell you I bawled, girl, it was so pitiful. Like she was crying. Can I still keep my kitty cat? I'm like, awful.
I can't.
It was so sad. But what a sweet girl to ask that, you know?
I know.
A huge group search started in hopes to find Tami. Law enforcement and volunteers and the National Guard lent a helicopter for the search. And that helicopter spotted something near the Uwahi Dam. It was the body of a woman. One of the detectives said, quote, "I've seen a lot of different ways people have died, but I have never seen anything like this," end quote. This woman had multiple stab wounds and lacerations, and detectives say that whoever killed her was clearly very angry. The body had been stripped of all of her clothes as if to humiliate her or to degrade this woman. The body was identified as Tami Reay. Tami had 48 to 53 stab wounds, her autopsy revealed.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. She also had several defensive wounds, one on her hand where she had grabbed the knife, like the blade of the knife, and the killer dragged it out of her hand, and that laceration went to the bone.
Oh my God.
Poor Tami really, she fought her hardest to stay alive.
And in the end, she still... I hate
48 to 53 stab wounds, of course she did. Bless her heart, though she tried. The autopsy didn't reveal any DNA evidence pointing to Brad, so detectives remained open to the possibility of Brian Clark being the killer. But, again, his alibi is airtight.
Mm-hmm.
A month after Tammy's body was found, the DA received a letter that was labeled, quote, "regarding Tami Reay," end quote. It was a supposed letter from a cousin of Brian Clark saying that Brian bragged about killing Tami, and it had really specific details like hotel names that Brian and Tami had frequented and details of the attack. This gets graphic. I'm sorry. He had raped her anally and then had lost the condom inside of her. So there was no condom found at Tammy's original autopsy, so police requested a second autopsy, and sure enough, there was a condom found in Tammy's rectum. Yeah, during the second autopsy. So, of course, this pointed the finger at Brian. So they went back to talk to Brian and his wife while they awaited DNA results on the condom. They were trying to figure out if maybe Brian had been able to slip out during the night without his wife noticing, which, that's always a possibility, I guess. Then the DNA results came back on the condom. The condom's user could not be identified because it was basically eroded because of all the time it sat in a decomposing body. So it's definitely a condom, but you can't get DNA from that. So detectives went back and they rewatched their interview with Brad Reay, and the statement he made about when they found Tammy's body, there would be DNA evidence that would set him free. That statement kept sticking out to investigators. Police wondered if Brad planted the condom to frame Brad, but how could that be if Brad said he didn't know who Tami had been sleeping with? So, detectives returned to Brad and Tammy's home to search for any further evidence that they might have missed. And what did they find in Brad's dresser but a tape recorder? What was on that? A recorded call where Tami had called up to Kmart and asked for Brian Clark and was telling Brian she needed to hear his voice and that she loved him and some other things. However, the recorder being in Brad's dresser does not obviously prove that Brad recorded it or that he ever heard it. You got to prove that somehow. But then they realized that there are deleted files on the tape where Brad's pretending to be Tami. And he's saying,
"Shut the
quote,
fuck up.
You have to be careful. He might know. Don't call me at home anymore." Things like that.
You're serious?
I'm so dead serious. It's so funny to hear. It's not funny. It's not. But who does that? I get after further research why he did it, but it's it's funny to me. What the hell, dude?
Well, now I have to go watch these docu-series things that you sent me.
Well, yeah, because it literally, you can hear the recording of him pretending to be Tami.
Oh my God.
Anyways, moving on from that. Basically, he was trying to see if where he planned to place the recorder, if it would be able to pick up what Tami says on the phone. That's the whole purpose behind his weird pretending to be Tami, but it's still funny to me. Evidently, Brad had put the recorder underneath the seat in Tammy's car and then put flowers and a note from himself, basically asking Tami to work on their marriage, being like, "I love you, I'm sorry, let's work on this."
Trying to get her back.
Yeah. So he pretty much set up a trap, assuming Tami would see the stuff Brad left and call the person she was romantic with and tell them about it. And unfortunately, that's exactly what Tami did. So that's where the recorded call came from, to Brian from Tami.
Okay.
But all that confirmed, how could Brad have sent the letter framing Brian? All incoming and outgoing mail is checked thoroughly when you're incarcerated, and they had been listening to his calls. The day before the letter arrived to authorities, Brad did have a visitor. Any guesses on who the visitor was?
His cousin.
Brad's twin brother, Brett. That's right, we thrown in another B name.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I didn't know he had a twin.
I didn't either. Surprise. That's how this whole story was. What? So cops track Brett down, and inside Brett's vehicle is a yellow memo pad that contains a rough draft of the letter that was sent to frame Brian. Brett admitted that he wrote down what Brad told him to when he had visited his brother, and that he sent the letters out. So this proved Brian Clark was innocent, but how did Brad get Brian's condom? Brad followed Tami and Brian, and when Brad was done with the condom,
No.
he threw it out the window because they were hooking up in his truck or whatever, and Brad picked it up knowing it contained DNA and was like, jackpot.
This is some disgusting high school bullshit.
This guy was going to extremes, and
this is a whole different level of...
Yes, okay, and think about that. If the condom was used and she wasn't raped by somebody, then that means he inserted that into her somehow, and I don't even want to know how.
Exactly.
He sexually assaulted her to get that inside of her, to frame this man. What a fucking asshole.
It's gross.
Hope he wore gloves, So this proves Brad tried to frame Brian, but they still didn't know where Brad killed Tami. And without a crime scene, they couldn't prove 100% that it was Brad that killed Tami because there's no evidence of that. Did Brad kill Tami?
It's you have all these random puzzle pieces together, but not that one in the middle that connects them all.
Right.
Yeah.
But, dun 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 dun, hidden on a median that had bushes and trees that was headed out of town, police discovered 3 large trash bags filled with bloody bedding. I'm talking flat sheets, fitted sheets, comforters, blankets,
everything.
Pillowcases, and a tarp with blood on it as well. And the tarp was a game changer because that proves Brad took all the bedding off, put the tarp down on the mattress to protect it from blood and damage, and then remade the bed with several blankets and sheets and stuff, so Tami had no idea when she went to bed that anything was off. So it proved undoubtedly that this was premeditated.
Oh, absolutely.
So in January 2007, Brad's trial began. Police felt that they had an easy guilty verdict in the bag. But how about at trial? Brad said he did dispose of Tami's body, but only to protect the real killer, his 13-year-old, at this point, daughter Haley.
His own daughter?
That poor child. Yes.
Dare I ask if he says why?
Yes. We'll go on.
Oh my God. I feel like this is a bad episode of Jerry Springer that never got aired.
Yes. This horrified police because this meant poor Haley, who had just lost her mom to a horrific murder, and by proxy her dad, who killed her, was now going to have to take the stand and basically hear her dad pin a murder he committed on this 13-year-old child.
His own child.
Brad said that he woke up to find Haley standing over Tami with a bloody knife in a trance-like state, and that he had tried to cover everything up to spare Haley.
Oh my God.
It's okay, though. It's okay, because during the trial, Bonnie Burns, which is Tami's mom, shamed Brad for trying to blame Tami's death on his daughter. Rightfully so. You go, Bonnie. Go, Bonnie.
Yeah.
Then Bonnie said a quote that will always be one of the most badass things someone has ever said to a murderer. I'm going to remember this when I have Alzheimer's. Bet on it.
All right, let's hear it, Bonnie.
She said, quote, "I'm surprised you didn't try to blame the cat." End quote.
I mean...
Right, though? Yes, Bonnie. Luckily, the jury saw through Brad the Bad's BS.
Brad the Bad's
BS. And in January 2007, they found Brad Reay guilty for first-degree murder for the stabbing death of his wife, Tami Reay. He was sentenced to life without parole. Good riddance, you piece of human garbage.
So did he ever admit to it?
No.
I'm caught, or he still denies it? Okay.
I'm sure. Well, they've not really interviewed him since, because, what's the point?
He's in jail, and that's all that matters.
As for Haley, she called her father a cold-blooded murderer, and she has since grown up to be a beautiful and amazing young woman, and has also become a victims' rights advocate. So, yas, Haley.
Her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is the tragic and insanely wild ride of a story of the murder of sweet Tami Reay. May she rest in peace, and may Brad rot in hell.
For real. Oh my God.
Isn't that the craziest, most weird story you've ever heard?
That is the most roller coaster story I've heard, I think, so far. Love our podcast? Then hit that subscribe button and leave us a review.
We're also on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/truecrimebuzz and join today for access to all our exclusive content, including bonus episodes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TC Buzz Podcast.
And check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com.
Until next time, cheers!